Hello all, I'm Rachel with the Downtown Chattanooga Public Library, and today we're talking about World War II hero and local celebrity Desmond Doss. Though Doss was born in Virginia, he settled on a small farm in Rising Fawn, Georgia after his service in the war. A devout Seventh-day Adventist, he promised to himself very young that he would live a life of nonviolence. Then came the war. At the outbreak of World War II, he was employed at a shipyard and offered deferment from going to war because of his work. However, Doss chose military service, in spite of the fact that he refused to carry a weapon of any kind or kill an enemy soldier. He became the only Medal of Honor recipient to never fire a shot. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions in Okinawa at the Maida Escarpment, commonly referred to as Hacksaw Ridge. There, Doss saved many lives at great risk to his own, while still refusing to carry a gun. He is buried in the National Cemetery in Chattanooga. You can hear the admiration in Miss Mine's voice as she talks about Desmond Doss and all of his accomplishments. I hope you all enjoy.
Hi everybody, my name is Chrissy and I'm from the Chattanooga Public Library. And for today's history program, we have a very special guest with us. So special guest, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, good. It's just so nice to see everybody today. I'm Linda Moss Mines, and I am a retired historian. I taught for 45 years, and the last 27 of those years, I was chairman of the history department at GPS. I'm a member of the Tennessee Historical Commission. I'm the official Chattanooga and Hamilton County historian, and I chair the Tennessee Cemeteries Commission because that's an important part of history. Apparently in my life, it's all about history. So I'm excited to be here today to talk history.
We are so excited to have you with us. Now, would the others like to introduce themselves as well?
I'm Thomas. Thomas Anderson. I work at the Downtown Library, mostly with teens and tweens, but I'm a huge fan of history, and I'm excited to be here.
Hey.
I'm Lynn Hunter. I also work at the downtown branch of the library, mostly with teens and tweens, but have a background in history also.
Our last person is one of my favorite people in all of history, and that is Desmond Doss. Desmond Doss, Medal of Honor recipient, the only pacifist to have ever received the Congressional Medal of Honor, as it was known at that point. Today, we say only the Medal of Honor because it isn't given by Congress. It is given through a lengthy and very heavily vetted process through the military and ultimately is signed off by the President of the United States. And while he is a Virginia native, he lives his last 45 years or so in the Chattanooga region and is buried atop Monument Hill here at our Chattanooga National Cemetery. For those who don't know the story, he was raised Seventh-day Adventist. And in a very early age, he witnesses a scene between his father and his mother. And his father had been a World War I veteran. Now we know that his father suffered from PTSD. In the 1920s and the 30s, people didn't know what PTSD was. They were often referred to it as shell-shocked. But they knew he came home a very different man than he had been. And he began to drink and had become quite abusive to his wife and his children. And at one point, in a fit of anger, young Desmond grabs a gun off of the rack hanging on the wall. And then he says later he hears the voice of God through the teachings that he had been taught as a young man, and he realized that in that anger he could have done something that he would have regretted, and he vows that he will honor the commandment that says thou shalt not kill to the last day of his life. As World War II begins to loom on the horizon, of course Europe is in the war in 1939, we don't join until after Pearl Harbor at December the 7th of 1941, Desmond Doss decides he wants to serve his nation. But, he chooses to enlist into the Army with the understanding that he is an Adventist and he will not carry a gun. He will be, if we talk about bullying today, it's a major issue we deal with in society with young people. This is a man who's in his 20s who will be bullied. He will be treated horribly by the men who are serving alongside. In fact, They believe that in beating him and ostracizing him and doing all sorts of horrific things to him, that he will just give up and go home. He refuses to do that. He eventually, he says, his wife is a nurse, I want to be a medic, I can take care of soldiers when they're wounded. I will not carry a gun, but I can serve my country, I can serve my God, I can serve my fellow man. And eventually they allow him to become a corpsman, to become a medic in the U.S. Army. And Doss goes into combat day after day after day at Hacksaw Ridge, which occurs, and it's called Hacksaw Ridge because they access the battlefield a little bit more than 60 yards high. And he will be crawling from soldier to soldier, treating them, trying to get them off the battlefield. He invents a technique where he loops around a little sapling that is near the cliff around his body, and it's the Desmond Doss knot. He lowers men who are incredibly wounded to where they can be cared for by the members of the unit that are still down below. His Medal of Honor citation credits him with 75. That was at his request. The U.S. Army believed that it was between 125 and 150, and Doss refused to allow them to use that number because he said, we don't know for sure that that's true, and I would never want to be less than truthful. One of the young men that he had served with, that was a platoon leader that had been especially vile to him, will be critically wounded in this battle at Hacksaw Ridge, and it will be Doss who will save him. And he will say, why would you save me? Why would you save me? I treated you horribly. And he says, because every life is precious in the eyes of the Lord. He will save several enemy soldiers also because he says that's his purpose. He is there to save lives. He will be wounded several times. And in fact, as the battle begins to calm down, as most of the men, the force itself will leave the ridge, Doss stays behind, crawling from body to body, making certain whether people are alive or whether they're dead, ultimately saving many others. When they come back to get him, as they load him on a stretcher because he's been shot, the stretcher bearers will stumble because one of them will be shot. They will dump him to the ground. He will have a broken limb. He will patch his own broken limb and refuses to get back on the stretcher because they've discovered another man who is more badly wounded. And Doss says, take him first. And he crawls to the edge of this escarpment and will eventually be lowered. That bottom picture, when I held it up before, is Doss being presented his Medal of Honor by President Harry Truman. When Truman presents the medal to him, he says, to receive the Medal of Honor is a greater honor than for me to serve as President of the United States. People come here from all over the nation to be able to just pay homage to this man of moral character and strength who would not betray his personal code of ethics. All three of the people we've talked about today are uniquely qualified to be remembered as part of our local history.
But all three together, I think it says something about like how we view heroes and our as children, usually you think a hero beats up the bad guy, but I think we kind of learn as we get older, it's not about imposing violence, it's about how you're helping others. And that's what really defines a hero.
Do you think that history is something that is sacred?
I do, and I believe that by human nature we are storytellers, and that we enjoy sharing our stories. We enjoy listening to other people's stories, and history, I believe, is probably the highest form of storytelling. But they are sacred in that those stories need to never be forgotten. It's critically important that you know where you've been to understand where you are, and then to be able to dream where you want to be.
Well, Ms. Mines, we would just love to thank you so much for taking the time today. This has been absolutely amazing for all of us, I know. Thank you so much again, and this is just We're in awe of you and your brilliance.
You are very, very kind. And remember, never miss an opportunity to reach out and touch history. Scavenger hunts are the best. You guys rock.
Thank you so much. And we think that you rock. And I guess until next time, thank you again. And we will talk soon.
Next time.
Thank you for
Thank you
joining
so
us.
much. I loved every minute of it. You all have a good rest of the day.
You too.
All right.
Bye.